from Columbia, Maryland, where we are recording Razzle Dazzle Radio, a show brought to you by Howard Community College. I'm Carolyn Kelemen, and I'm here with my co-host, Judy Templeton. So listeners, the first thing I wanted to say is, Erin go bragh forever. Yes, I'm still celebrating St. Patrick's Day, even though it's later in March. And our guest today will discuss our theme of the making of a performer, what it's like to, get out there and get up on the stage and actually sing, dance, or play music. So, Judy, please introduce our guests and take it away.
Yay, I would love to. All right. So we have Stephen, we have Sean, we have Ellen. And what do they have in common? Well, we're about to find out. So I know quite a bit about Stephen, but not so much about Sean and Ellen. But let's go ahead, Stephen, and get right to it. So how did you go from becoming a principal at, I will say, my alma mater, Hale Howard High School? We sing to thy name. I'm not going to sing the song, but don't worry. Anyway, and now you're with Columbia Center for Theatrical Arts. And take us on that journey.
Sure. I think, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited to join you guys for this podcast. I think the real question is, how did I get to become a high school principal?
Oh, maybe. Okay. Reverse
it. And then eventually we'll help understand how I got to here. So I'll share a little bit about my past. I've lived in Howard County my whole life. I went to Lisbon, Glenwood, and Glenelg. And when I was at Glenelg, I had, for my first 3 years, Ron Oakes was my drama teacher, who I learned a great deal from and got really interested in theater. I guess I was interested in theater even before that, in the early days of elementary schools with Sonny Lerner and middle school, Donna Duke. So lots of teachers influenced my life. Then my senior year of high school, my teacher had retired and a new teacher was brought in, and her name was Sue Miller now, who happens to be Toby Ornstein's sister. And so I got a crash course in learning about the Ornsteins and Tobys. And Sue said, why don't you come down and audition for this thing called the Young Columbians that I had never heard about? So I came down to the theater one day, this theater that my grandmother used to bring me to with season subscriptions. And I walked in and the regular lights were on, and it was very weird looking. I stood on this X in the middle of the floor and I started to sing a song. And all I remember is this woman who I hadn't met reaching across the stage to me and pulling her arm out and waving it around and then having me do things differently. And next thing I knew, I was in the Young Columbians, which would become one of the I would say life-defining experiences that I've had, where our group from 1999 till maybe 2005 maybe had stayed together with some people coming and going over time. And we performed. We did shows all around the county, around the state, and celebrated, grew up together. I was one of the older members at the time in the group, all the way down to a couple of elementary age kids. And we spent a lot of time together. Eventually, I became a theater teacher. I probably see how that all led to one thing after another. I graduated from UMBC and started teaching theater at Oakland Mills High School. And I did that for about 8 years. And I got interested in, I guess you'd say, leadership and how can you impact beyond just the classroom. And I started taking some of my graduate courses, got my master's degree in curriculum and instruction. And I was inspired a lot by the principal who I worked with at the time. His name was Frank Eastham. And, we were talking and started talking about school leadership. And next thing I knew, I was applying to be an assistant principal. And then I ended up being an assistant principal. People would ask me, actually, I'll tell you a funny story. When I met my wife online, and the first question was, I think my profile said, former high school theater teacher, current administrator or something. And she's like, why would anybody leave such a fantastic job? And I said, it is a fantastic job. And I would still do it in a heartbeat if I could do both. But it's always good to leave when you're still happy and excited and do whatever the next adventure is, right?
So they say, yes.
Yeah. So if you're burned out and exhausted, you've stayed too long. And so I guess I've always had a little bit of let's go find the next thing. So I became an assistant principal. Then I became a principal. And then I wasn't planning to stop being a principal when I did, but the opportunity to be the executive director of Columbia Center for Theatrical Arts came up. And because I had been a young Columbian, because I had been involved in the organization, but I also had this education experience and leadership, I was really excited to see what would come next to take this opportunity. And so my wife did a lot of the convincing, and we made it work. It was definitely a huge life change to leave the school system and the pension and all those cool things, but to step into the organization that helped me get my start in theater and lead that organization into its next 50 years is something that I'm truly honored, and it's a privilege to be able to lead the organization.
Wow. Okay. That is quite a story. And you know what? There's a couple interesting intersections here because we had a guest on a while ago, Debbie Mobley. Do you know her?
I do know Debbie well.
I figured you did because she got her start in the very same way. And she mentioned the same thing, Sonny Lerner, Sue Miller. Then she went to Glenelg. I mean, so when you were talking, I was like, okay. And people in the arts do tend to get all connected, you know, and one of the continuing themes here on the show is that what would we have done without the arts, you know? And I mean, I love how you really trusted, walked out on the edge and said, I got to do this. This is my calling now. And you're the right guy for the job.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is, you know, we talk about in theater the idea of yes and, right? And we say yes to the experience, and then how can we build on it? And we take the risk and we try. I had a college professor who I think it was my directing professor, and I was in there talking about a show that I wanted to do. And I just didn't have, I couldn't find space to do it in and the right thing. And I remember they said, you can wait until next year for the right people, the right space, the right budget, the right whatever. But all you're going to do each year is wait until next year. At some point, you just have to take the risk and try it. And so that story, whenever I'm feeling stuck a little bit, I try to come back to that story and think about it.
I like another saying, that is when you make a decision in trust and you're on the top of the mountain and you jump, you're either going to land or you're going to fly softly. So, you know, it means you're safe either way when you do it with the right intent. And that's fantastic. And you did. So what's in store for CCTA right now? What's happening there? I know it's been a little bit of changeover and whatever. So give us.
Yeah, it's very exciting times to be involved. So, and there'll be a lot more coming out in the coming months. But you know, just for today's purposes, I think we're taking a look as a staff at our strategic plan and making recommendations on. We know where we've been as an organization for 50 plus years, and our founder Toby Ornstein led the organization with love and care and compassion and helped thousands of young people get their starts in the arts, or I would even just say get their start in life, because it's not necessarily about if you're going to directly be involved in the arts, but it's about learning empathy and learning to connect and learning the skills that make you successful in any career. And you might, you know, I used to tell my students in class that you might love the arts, but you also are really excited about law and you might want to be an entertainment lawyer, right? There are other avenues where you can do all the things you like. And I think, you know, I look at our mission, and, you know, our mission is to educate through the arts by creating theatrical experiences that inspire thought, action, creativity, and change. And so I think about those things and I say, what can we be doing here in Howard County in Maryland to inspire thought, to inspire action, to inspire change and creativity? And how can we make that accessible to a wider audience? So our outreach programs, we're very honored right now. We got a grant from the Baltimore Community Foundation, and we're pushing in to bring our after school theater program into a school in Baltimore. We've been partnering there for a while, and now the Community Foundation is funding us, which is awesome. We also offer a lot of programming for students and adults with disabilities. I'm looking for how can we expand that. We're looking to see Maryland State Department of Education has created a thing called community schools. And those are schools that are in a high poverty density area. So we're trying to find out how can we take our theater program into those elementary schools at such a reduced cost that it makes it accessible to school students who may not have access to the arts. Because at the end of the day, the next 50 years is going to be how can we make theater accessible? And how can we bring stories to families, to communities, to those who need to hear them most?
I absolutely love that. So I'm curious because, of course, I am a proud Baltimorean. As I say, that's my roots. So where in Baltimore will you be doing that program that you mentioned?
Yeah, so we're at Armistead Gardens. It's an elementary middle school. We've been there for probably a decade and just offering whatever we can, but we've now applied and now we're getting funding for it. And so hopefully we can keep stepping up the experiences there.
I just love, I love everything you're doing. And to bring arts to the people that usually don't have them is the key. But also, I applaud you because it's not easy. And again, it's still trying to bring all those together. And
we have to give
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say we have to give a big shout out. Gerald Jordan, who's been with the organization for a long time, he runs the program at Armistead Gardens along with one of the school staff members. And I think that's what makes the program really magical is that somebody from the staff that the students know is partnering with our organization. And together they create theater and experiences that students will remember.
Absolutely. And of course, I have to give you credit for being a visionary to want to continue that. And like you say, looking ahead. And plus your background with administration is helpful, certainly, for you to make that magic happen. So I love your combination of the arts and then education and how you've put it all together and giving back to your community and where you came from. It's a good story, Stephen. Thank
you. It's all about telling the story.
Yeah, so absolutely. So, all right. Well, Carolyn, I know that you asked Sean and Ellen to come on, so I'm going to let you take the lead here to find out, get the goods on them here day after March 17th. So
I happen to have heard them play with their band yesterday on St. Patrick's Day at the Harp and Fiddle or Fiddle and Harp. I'm not quite sure. You can help me. Sean Hoffman and Ellen Copeland, tell me your story.
So, yeah, we had a great show yesterday morning. It was our first show of 3. So that's a little bit what the Irish musician performer life is like on St. Patrick's Day. We started at 11 a.m. and we played until midnight.
With some breaks in the middle.
We did have a couple of breaks. So we're a little tired. But Carolyn, the show that you saw us play at the Fiddler's Hearth was definitely the warmest and the most fun. So you got the best. But so we have an Irish band called Sultray. I guess maybe I'll just talk about our history a little bit. I started off in a musical family. My uncles all played bluegrass growing up. And so they're in Indiana, and at my grandpa's farm, everybody would get together and the band would play. And it was just kind of a family jam sort of situation where everybody'd play. And I just remember being, 4 or 5 years old and just standing in the circle, looking up and wanting to be a part of that. So that kind of gave me the music bug, I guess, from an early age. And then I studied some Irish music in New York when I was in school there. I went to the Merchant Marine Academy because I could travel and be out of Indiana, and they paid for school and it sounded interesting. So I got my degree in marine transportation and then shipped out on merchant ships for about 5 years after that. I graduated in 2000, and I don't know, just started playing in bands kind of early on around the early 2000s. We had a band that played in a lot of festivals and toured, and we traveled. We did a tour in Ireland and some things like that.
I grew up sort of in a musical family as well, a little different. It was sort of more of an immediate family. I had a lot of siblings, and they all played piano because my parents were really invested in music. And so they gave my oldest sister piano lessons, and then she would come home from her lessons and teach all of her younger siblings. That was kind of her job. Since she was the oldest, she got to take the professional lessons. Then she would come home and give us all lessons.
You already had a built-in band.
Yeah, we sure did. And it kind of trickled into other instruments too. My uncle found a cello and give it to the family. So I was the right size for that at the time. And I got to play cello, and my sisters played violin and viola. So we had a string trio there for a little while. And my dad always played guitar. So when I was in high school and I wanted to be cool, I took his guitar and tried to tune it, and I broke a string. You know, he could have been sort of like a, hey, don't touch this. This is mine. But he said, no, that happens. Here's how to fix it. And that sort of support and encouragement from my parents to pursue music and express myself through music was a really formative way for me to learn how to express myself. I think words have always been really hard, but music has been an easy way to like connect with other people and also to share something I love. I tried to pursue a different degree at first, and I was skipping all my classes to practice piano in the basement of the building I was going to classes in. So the second year I decided I better just go study music. And I didn't skip my classes anymore. I went to those classes and worked really hard. And after that, you know, as a musician, if you're making income, you either have to be performing a lot or teaching a lot. And I enjoyed teaching. So I dove into teaching. I think I would have pursued performing in a similar way as you did, but I didn't have an outlet for that. I didn't know other musicians that wanted to perform and tour with me. So I started teaching full time, and I really enjoyed that aspect.
Yeah.
And I didn't really meet a network of musicians until I met Sean. And then suddenly I found this whole network of musicians that play and tour and have a good old time. And I thought, wow, this is what I've been looking for years.
Yeah, with traditional music, Irish music and bluegrass, and there's the kind of old time equivalent, which is the American sort of fiddle style. There's a lot of touring, performing musicians who are, you know, kind of everybody's doing it on the cheap. You know, you stay with friends, you travel in a CRV, you know, but it's a lot of teaching, kind of passing on this traditional stuff. So we actually were teachers before we started playing full time. I got my teaching license in 2012. And then I was teaching elementary ESL for about 10 years until I think we stopped in about 2023 to play full time. So we both sort of like set full-time teaching aside. And then like Stephen was saying, you kind of want to give back, and you know, or just it's still a big part of what we do. So we travel and perform a lot now with different groups. We have our duo is called Bobcat Opossum. And then, but we also have started a couple of fiddle camps. We're on staff, a fiddle camp in Virginia that we go to every summer. We started our own week-long bluegrass kind of day camp here in Fort Wayne where we live. So there's a lot of educational sort of elements to what we do, and we're still kind of incorporating a lot of that. So
interesting that all of our guests have had some kind of educational background and the arts too. What a great combination. And what a great combination that you guys met, you know, bringing entertainment and love and whatever all together. Wow, that's a pretty good, that's a good story for the arts for sure. So, well, I think that Carolyn has said that we're going to go ahead, Carolyn, why don't you promote? They have a CD, right? And
yes, that's what I'm holding, this CD, and it's called Look What the Bobcat Dragged In. And you definitely have to tell people how they can buy this, or, you know, or reach your website. What's your website?
Sure. Yeah. Our website is bobcatopossum.com, and it has all of our tour dates and link to the album. We recorded that kind of when we got started as a duo in 2023. We didn't really have a recording of just us. So it's kind of a mix of traditional and original songs
and tunes
and some of our favorite tunes that we like to play. So yeah, that's available through the website on Bandcamp. You can find it on Spotify and all the streaming platforms as well.
How about if you spell it?
Oh yeah. Bobcat, BOBCAT, and then OPOSSUM.com.
All one word, all small, right?
Yep.
Bobcatopossum.com is the one site where you can kind of see all the crazy projects we're working on at the same time, because we have our musical tour, we have our recording that you have there in your hands, we have all of our workshops and summer camps, and we're going to be doing a tour of Scotland, like leading a guided tour of Scotland next year. So we'll have information there about that. It's sort of just just the landing page for all of the Bobcat Opossum madness that comes our way and we say yes to, like Stephen was saying.
Yeah.
You say yes and then you find a way to make it happen and people that want to do it with you.
I love
Are you
that.
going to go to the places of Outlander, which I love on TV?
The tour starts in Edinburgh for I think 4 days, and then we hit all the sessions and little concert things there, and then we go up to various places in the Highlands on the Isle of Skye and Inverness and along Loch Ness, all that for the rest
Count
of the trip.
me in.
Okay.
Well, before we get to maybe hear just a little bit of your music, I'd like to go back because you're telling us about the events before and make sure that Stephen, tell us some of the events coming up for the Columbia Center for Theatrical Arts into the summer and camps for kids and all that kind of stuff too.
Sure, absolutely. So I think, after the airing of this, two things come to mind immediately in May, one of which is on May 9th, our New Horizons program, which is a program for 16-year-old and up into adults with disabilities. They are going to be doing a dessert theater fundraiser, and that will be held at Crossroads Church in Howard County. And information of that will be coming out on our website soon. Additionally, our young Columbians are mounting a production of The Wedding Singer that's going to be at HCC Memorial Day weekend. And so we're looking forward to all of those. And then, of course, we're very excited that our summer camp programs are filling up. We're auditioning our senior intensive right now, which is going to be doing Groundhog Day in August. And and our junior kids will be doing School of Rock, and the little kids will be doing the Enchanted edition of Cinderella. There's a lot of Cinderella editions. That's one of the ones for the young kids.
Right, exactly. That is a great variety to choose from for sure. I love it. All right. So
Absolutely.
Make sure and check that out. What is the website that everybody can find this in one place, Steve?
Yep. You can go to cctarts.shop. And you can find everything you need to about us right there, including our donation links. If anybody is feeling compelled to give, we are constantly raising money for student scholarships and our general operations.
I absolutely love everything you're doing. And I'm so happy that you're at the helm and bringing all your expertise, wisdom, passion, and compassion to it. And that's exactly what Toby would want to see happen. So thank you so much for doing that. Okay, so Sean and Ellen, thank you for keeping us in the spirit. Absolutely wonderful. And if you want to keep hearing some of this great music, Carolyn, can you hold up that CD one more time?
It's Bobcat Opossum, one word, .com. You can order it from there. Terrific. Erin go brah.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Sean and Ellen, and I hope to hear some more of your music. And Stephen, thank you for everything that you're doing here for CCTA. And a reminder that if you want to hear all of the announcements of all the different shows going on, it's CCT Arts Shop. Am I correct about that? That's the website to find it all on?
Yep. CCTArts.shop.
.shop. Okay, forgot that dot. That's important. And that's where you can find out all the happenings here locally. Please support our local theater. And thank you for bringing theater to all the populations that somehow haven't received it. It's a great contribution. I guess until next time, Razzle Dazzle them. This is Judy Templeton, Carolyn Kelemen, and always get out there and see a new show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed what you just heard, we have a whole universe of podcasts waiting for you. Simply search Dragon Podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. You can also explore our full lineup and discover new shows at podbean.com/Dragon Podcasts. That's podbean.com/Dragon Podcasts.